everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking all about what I read in October. October, I'll say it was a decent reading month for me. I'm getting used to my adult life and I feel like I balanced working and reading and all of my other like booktube and working out and stuff things pretty well. So I'm excited to talk about what I read this month because I feel like I read some quality books. So, starting off October, I read Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor, and oh boy, love this book with my whole being. This is a follow-up to Strange Dreamer, which I read in September, and I got this book the day it came out. I tabbed so many times because, oh, also fun fact, I went to a Laini Taylor signing, so my book is signed. I tabbed so many times because there's just so many things that I loved about this book. Since you can't really say much about Muse without ruining Strange, I'm just going to talk about what Strange the Dreamer was about. So basically, Strange the Dreamer follows Laszlo Strange, who is a librarian, and he spent his whole life obsessed with the mythical city of Weep. One day, a caravan comes into town looking for volunteers and the best of the best to actually go to the city of Weep and help them solve a mysterious problem. And of course, Laszlo needs to take this opportunity of a lifetime to go to this mythic city that he has dreamed of his whole life. And from there, things happen and they get crazy. And it is just an example of exquisite world building and beautiful characters. The thing about this duology that I think drew me in at first was the writing. I know some people either love it or they hate it, but the writing really resonated with me. I just think Laini Taylor is so melodic and lyrical and beautiful, and for me that's something that I really enjoy in my books. So I was so happy to read it, and so many of these tabs are just the lines that took my breath away. Obviously, I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. Muse of Nightmares elevated the world building and expanded it beyond a level that was in Strange Dreamer, and in Strange Dreamer it was already so high to begin with. I didn't even think it was going to be possible to get even more of this world, but yet we do. A lot of the mysteries that were left hanging in Strange Dreamer are explained in Muse of Nightmares, but are explained in such extraordinary ways that you wouldn't have even thought would be in the realm of possibility, and it's so good. My favorite storyline that they added on to Muse of Nightmares is the story of Cora and Nova, who are 2 sisters that live in this world, and that's all I'm going to say, but it was poignant and just came to a heartbreaking conclusion, and I just thought it added so much to this book, and just the way that everything all ties together is so satisfying. I loved also the character development. I thought Strange Dreamer really focused on Laszlo Strange's character development, and so his character arc was kind of secondary in this, and it's more focused on Sarai and her character development as she goes through some difficult things. But there were also some characters from the first book that I didn't like that I ended up loving by this end of this book, mainly being Thyone Nero. He just has a really great character arc, and I hated him in the first book. I thought he was the absolute worst, and I think he realizes that he was the absolute worst in this book, and just things about him change and he changes. I just thought he was one of the most delightfully unexpected elements of the story that I truly enjoyed. There are just so many character moments that I just loved all of these characters, and I thought they were all so wonderful, and there were so many beautiful moments, and I loved being wrapped up in this world. Also, I just love Laszlo so much. He is sensitive and sweet and is not like the macho manly guy that is usually in YA. I think we need more sensitive and emotional men in YA fantasy, and I loved that even though that was his personality, he wasn't like useless. Like, he did meaningful things with his brain, and because he was smart and because he's emotionally in tune, that's like important to his character, and I just thought that that was something that we don't get to see as often, but I truly loved. But yeah, these are definitely books that I will revisit in the future for sure. I know I mentioned before how much I love the writing, but really Laini Taylor's writing is just so lyrical and ethereal. I come away from reading her books feeling like I have stars in my eyes and music made of text in my head, because the writing is just that beautiful. I also only have the US editions of these books, but I definitely want to buy the UK editions because they're stunning, and this is one of my favorite duologies of all time. on top of my lovely review, I do want to mention I went to a Laini Taylor signing with my best friend in New York City, and some of the little tidbits that I learned from that signing, I put it in my Kingdom of Ash vlog if you want to see a clip of Laini. But to take away from it, she said that the concept of Sarai came to her in a dream, and the fact that these books are all about dreams and nightmares, and Sarai came to her in a dream is just full circle and wonderful and beautiful. She talked about how Laszlo's character for her really solidified in her head when she came up with the idea that he broke his nose because a book of fairy tales fell on his face. And I just thought that is such like a Laszlo thing, and it makes perfect sense that that would click his character into place in her head. And yeah, it was just so fascinating to see her in person, and she was so lovely. I was wearing I have a choker with like a half moon on it that matches this, and she's like, oh my god, I love your choker, it matches the books. And I'm like, oh my god, you're so right. It was so great. Yeah, but it was just a really great experience meeting her, and I just loved hearing about her work, and I really want to read her Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy in the future because I'm just obsessed with her writing. Next up, I read none other than Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare, and I loved it so much I went out and got myself a little Clockwork Angel on Amazon. So I'm gonna put it on. Hello, I'm Tessa Gray now. Oh boy, the Infernal Devices. Where do I even start with this series? I have been doing a reread with my best friend Melissa since about June now, I think, of the entirety of the Mortal Instruments series, or well, the entirety of the Shadowhunter Chronicles, and Clockwork Princess is the book that broke me. I think that the Mortal Instruments is fun and it's a really cool world, but the Infernal Devices was where I really felt an emotional connection and an emotional investment in the story. So this is set in the Shadowhunter world, but in Victorian London. In Clockwork Angel, we have Tessa Gray, pictured here, an American who is coming to London after the death of her aunt to come and live with her brother. However, once she lands in England, she's kidnapped, and she finds out that she has the power to change into anyone. She is rescued from her kidnappers by two mysterious, brooding Shadowhunter boys. She must work with the Shadowhunters to uncover the dark secrets of her past, and she becomes more entangled with their lives, especially brooding, mysterious Will and patient, kind Jim. Obviously, I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. This whole series is something where I felt like the love triangle actually worked, and it worked really well. Like, I don't think the story would have been as good without the love triangle, whereas I usually feel like love triangles take away from things, but it's because Will and Jem both love each other as much as they love Tessa, and I think that adds just another layer of complication to it, and it just makes reading about their emotions as they like struggle with their love for Tessa. It just gives it more depth, as in like they're not just trying to fight over her, like they really care and consider for each other's feelings. I thought this was a stunning conclusion to the series, and I loved that Tessa got to use her powers a little bit more in this book. I felt like in Clockwork Prince she didn't really use them as much as she did in the first book, but in this third book she really gets to use her powers and showcase them. But I find that the strength of Tessa as a character is just how smart she is. She's not a shadow hunter, she wasn't born to fight, and yet she has this quiet strength that I really admire about her and makes her one of my favorite characters and favorite heroines. Basically, everyone talks about how the epilogue of this book emotionally shatters them, and I was no different. I felt like my heart got torn out of my chest, and I just felt like I just connected so much with the characters, and the pain and the anguish they went through in this entire series. I felt it for them because I was so invested in their story. And yeah, the epilogue ripped my heart open and put it back together, and I literally left the series being like, oh my god, what do I do now? This was so amazing, and it made me more excited to read the rest of the Shadowhunters books. And basically, I'm reading only Shadowhunters books leading up to Queen of Air and Darkness because I'm going to a Cassandra Clare signing with Melissa, and we're both so excited and just going on a complete Shadowhunters binge. But yeah, this book is definitely the best of all of the Shadowhunters books. Well, this whole trilogy really, but this one really was a heavy hitter, and I loved it so much. The next book I read this month was One Dark Throne by Kendar Blake. This is the second book in the Three Dark Crowns series, and I really enjoyed it. Three Dark Crowns follows 3 sisters on the island of Fennyburn. They're Fenburn. They are triplets born to the queen, and once they turn 16, they have to battle to the death for the throne. Each queen is gifted with a different power. We have an elementalist, a naturalist, and a poisoner queen. I think that these gifts are really interesting, and especially the poisoner gift is something that I haven't seen before, and it's just dark. So I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. I mean, sisters battling each other for the throne and they have to kill each other with their special magical powers. That is dark and gritty, and I mean, dark is like in every title, so obviously it's dark. It has a lot of unexpected twists and turns, and I could not put this book down because I just needed to know what was gonna happen, and I kind of picked it up on a whim while I was waiting for Kingdom of Ash. I had like a weird gap. So I was like, I'll read this book in the meantime, and I really had a good experience with it. It was also a perfect October read. It definitely fit the spooky mood. I love reading about the different relationships between the sisters because obviously they have a lot to struggle with, reconciling their love for their sisters with the fact that they were raised to kill each other and that they're basically taught their whole lives that they need to lust for the throne, and how they can justify to themselves planning and plotting to kill their sisters. The only thing that held me back from giving this book a full 5 stars is that I felt like the writing style was a little bit sparse. The plot, the characters, all those elements are there, but I just felt like the writing style was just scratching the surface. I think there's so much more depth to the story if only the author wrote it in there. I just felt like major events were kind of skimmed over, and I wish that her writing style was a little bit more descriptive, and it just would have given this, rounded out the story a little bit more, and I would have been just even more enchanted with the book. But again, that's kind of like a personal preference thing. If you like maybe that sparser writing style, this could be a better book for you. But overall, I mean, I still really did enjoy it. Usually fantasies are very descriptive, and I found that this one was a little bit too sparse for my taste. Okay, well, I did a whole reading vlog on this next book, so you can see my emotional journey as I read it. But Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. Oh boy, this is the last book in the Throne of Glass series, which has quickly become a series near and dear to my heart. I read it for the first time in August, and I read all of the books besides the last one in like 2 weeks because I just could not stop reading them. They were so good. But Throne of Glass follows Selena Sardothian. She is the most ruthless assassin in the whole entire kingdom, but she is serving as a slave in the salt mines because she got caught, and she's called upon by the king to come and compete in a competition to be the king's champion, aka the official assassin of the king. However, mysterious things are happening in the castle as the contestants start dying off one by one, and we learn that there are more dark forces at work. But this series just goes so beyond the scope of Throne of Glass. It is crazy. We start off with an assassin in a castle, and we just journey far and wide throughout this world. We have new characters that are introduced as the series goes along, and it really just expands and turns into this epic fantasy series. This was my most anticipated book of the year, and I am so happy that I read it, and I just can't believe that it's over. It's very bittersweet. And I successfully avoided all spoilers, so I'm very proud of myself for that. So officially, I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. 5 million out of 5 million stars really is what I gave Throne of Glass series. And I don't know, I just love these books. I feel like I can't be like super critical about them. I mean, I'm really not that critical anyways. Usually if I have a good time reading a book, I love it. Like, I don't know, I'm just not that critical, but I really love this book. I tabbed the heck out of it. Every like page I basically like had a tab. Some pages I had more than one tab. I just had such a great time reading it. It's an epic fantasy series starring a badass woman, but there's so many more characters that are strong, and there's just a wide array of everything going on. The scope is just out of this world. My heart was pounding as I was reading because I was just so afraid for these characters, and I wanted them all to be okay because I just had such an attachment to all of them. I mean, I was just so emotional when it was over because I didn't want it to end, but I thought that this was a great conclusion to the series. I thought that everything wrapped up pretty nicely and it ended on a note of hope, and it was just beautiful, and just the whole experience of the series was absolutely wonderful. And I felt like everything was appropriately paced. Like, I hate when authors just drag out a series for more than it really needs to be, and I just felt like everything, even though I'm sad that it's over, like it was an appropriately paced arc and it wasn't brought past the point of being relevant, you know? But yeah, I just truly only have good things to say about Throne of Glass because I just love the series with all my heart. And finally, I read The Diviners by Libba Bray on audiobook. I was never really an audiobook reader before, and especially before booktube, I didn't even really know that people listen to audiobooks. But I have a commute now on the subway, so I just throw in my headphones and listen, and I find that it makes the time go by a lot quicker than listening to music, and it's a little bit more engaging, and I just kind of love consuming stories this way. It's new and it's fun, and I've just been really having a good time with audiobooks. So, especially the Diviners audiobook, I thought it was fantastic. We follow Evie O'Neill, who is a thoroughly modern girl in the 1920s. She's shipped off from Boring, Ohio to live with her Uncle Will, a professor of the occult in New York City, when she gets herself into some trouble back in Ohio. However, Evie has her own dark paranormal secrets. But when a girl is brutally murdered and the occult is suspected, Evie uses her powers to try and stop this killer. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I really enjoyed listening to it on audiobook. The narrator has such a... I was so surprised, especially because I haven't read audiobooks, how many different voices one person can do. I thought that that was fantastic, and she just does everything so well, and I loved hearing the characters speak, like all their accents, and it really brings the 1920s lingo to life. It is laid on a little thick, and I feel like if I was reading it, it would be annoying, but because I'm listening to it, I really feel immersed in the atmosphere of 1920s New York City. Evie as a character kind of grated on me at first, and I thought that she was kind of annoying, but as the story went on, I began to develop an appreciation for her character. Also, I thought that the story was a little bit slow in the beginning and a little bit hard to get into, but like once it picks up, it really does pick up pace and things get crazy. I did read this book over the course of like a month. Even though I've been reading audiobooks, like I don't read them fast. Like I usually read books fast, but because I really only am listening to them on my commute to work, they take me about like a month to listen to an audiobook. But I did kind of like that, taking my time with this book. I felt like I was just like started to think about it when I wasn't reading it, and it was just a really good experience. I almost felt like Libba Bray kept back the secrets of her characters, and I liked that aspect. I thought that then once you find out, it was frustrating, but it kept me reading, and once you find out the mysteries of these characters, it's just like a really big payoff that you finally like know why they are acting in the mysterious way that they are. So I enjoyed that aspect. And yeah, it was just a really great audiobook, and I had a really fun time reading it. And it's perfect for October and gave me such Halloween spooky vibes because it was really scary at some points. Alright, so that is it for what I read in October. If you've read any of these books, let me know what you thought about in the comments below. Just briefly, since I'm not really doing TBR videos anymore because I don't really know how much time I have for books each month and stuff like that, but briefly a sketch is that I'm just reading everything Shadowhunters leading up to the Queen of Air and Darkness, so I'm devoting all of November and December until I finish these books, and Melissa and I are doing this. It's a team effort. So right now I'm on City of Lost Souls after just having finished City of Fallen Angels. So next is City of Heavenly Fire, which is the biggest Mortal Instruments book. It is floppy, it is thick, and I'm excited. Then we have the 2 short story collections, The Bane Chronicles and Tales from the Shadowhunters Academy, which I've heard you have to read before starting the Dark Artifices, so your girl is reading them. Then after that, I can finally get to Lady Midnight and Lord of Shadows. I've been anticipating reading these books for so long, and I'm so excited that I read every Shadowhunters book leading up to him, because I just think I'm so immersed in the world now, and I'm so invested, and I'm just having so much fun reading everything Shadowhunters, and I just can't wait to read these guys. And then of course, Queen of Air and Darkness comes out December 4th, and I'm going to a Cassandra Clare signing, and I'm so excited. All right, that's it for what I read in October. Have some fun, read some books, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.